Hello, crypto boys and ghouls, and welcome back to the channel, Tales from the Cryptmancer, where we feature content on play and earn games on the blockchain, such as Splinterlands. And in today's video, I want to go through some interesting data discussing why soulbound reward cards are really a requirement for Splinterlands moving forward. And we're going to dig into the data here, and I think you're going to find it to be very interesting. So before we hop into specific data points, I want to basically start the discussion with really the main reason why soulbound reward cards are a requirement for Splinterlands going forward is, well, quite honestly, the Splinterlands dev team has taken the stance that bots in this game are fine, they're allowed, and they're not going to remove them from the ecosystem or the ability to earn in the game. And this is at the heart of the matter on why soulbound reward cards are a requirement for the game to really be sustainable in the future. We're going to go into some of the data here. That's, in my estimation, really the driver behind Matt making this kind of pivot to soulbound reward cards. And we're going to talk about it here. So first off, I want to point to some discussions and some data that I've been posting to Twitter this afternoon. If you don't follow me on Twitter, that is probably the best spot to get the latest and greatest information that I'm sharing with the Splinterlands community, kind of hot takes and specific data that you'll find interesting. So let's hop into Twitter here again, at MancerTales. This is the first point that I want to talk about today. And it's really talking about the rental card market data, and it leads us into some other data points that are very interesting. First of all, we talk about the card rental data because it shows us a couple things in this graph coming straight from the Splinterlands Discord. It basically shows us that the number of cards rented has soared or increased inversely proportionally to the price of said rentals. And in fact, yesterday within Splinterlands, the card rental market rented over 3.12 million cards, but the average price of those cards rented was 0.0019 cents, which is basically free, right? So if we look at this specific data here, what you can see here is around July and August of last year, we might have been renting, July of August of this year, we were renting around 1.6 million cards, and that's spiked up to now double, around 3 million cards rented. And you can see here, as of, let's say, September of 2021, so right around the August spike, we were only renting roughly around 600,000 cards per day. Now we're well over 3 million cards per day. But also look at the rental prices in the rental market. Back in, let's say, December of this last year, so a year ago, end of season rentals were peaking at, the card market was peaking at $150,000 worth of rental income on a single day back in around December of last year, so a year ago. Unfortunately now, the card rental market has really pretty much crashed, and we're actually we actually took in under $6,000 of total rental revenue in the last 24 hours, even though we rented over 3 million cards. So there's a ton of cards in circulation, and because of the number of cards available for rent, well, the bots are certainly scooping them up and renting them, but the actual price of those rentals is very, very low. Now, I want to also share with you here, again, my comments here was, are the bots paying their fair share? And that's a good question because, well, there's a ton of supply out there, and the rental card prices are quite low. So what I want to also share with you is some more data on the cards I find is interesting, in that Splinterlands had approximately 25 million cards total that were minted after Untamed and Dice were basically sold out. Now, right now, there's about 50% of Chaos Legion packs that are still unsold or unopened, and there's still a number, quite a few of the newly minted or scheduled to be minted Chaos Legion reward cards, things like the Tide Biter, the Mere Dampier, etc., that have a long way to go before they're fully minted. And even with all of those unopened or unminted cards, we already have over 145 million cards minted. That's a 6x in cards minted just in the last, well, roughly year and 4 months or so. And the question is has the number of active users since last August increased by a 6x? And we're going to talk about that in just a second. But let me show you this chart here. You can see here, again, in roughly August of last year, we're around 25 million cards minted. And now currently we're, well, almost 150 million cards minted. So that's a huge increase in the supply. And that's even with 50% of Chaos Legion packs unopened or unsold. So that number is going to go even higher. And if you look at the number of users here, actually, we've actually shed over 50% of daily active users since the peak last year, which was probably at this point measured around November timeframe, where we had 500,000 daily active accounts running, which is 500,000. We can see on this chart here, we had in November of last year, 500,000 daily active users or daily active accounts. And now, based on Peak Monster data, we're around 200,000 daily active accounts. So in fact, we haven't 6x the number of daily active users or accounts. We've actually, well, decreased by more than 50% year over year. And if you also look at Peak Monster data, in the last 6 months, we've only added 7,109 new spellbooks to the game. So that number is, well, when compared to 200,000 or 500,000, it's very low. And what I also want to share with you is another data point here is the bot spike in August of 2021 lines up. Again, this is the bot spike here on the daily active users here in August, going from, well, under 50,000 daily active users to 500,000. And that's not all human players, obviously. But what happened around that same time frame when the bot farms came online is the reward card printing spike also happened. And this is interesting here. You also see in this August timeframe, this is when the Chaos Legion reward cards came online shortly thereafter. And look at the reward print rates here, going from around, let's say, 7 million reward cards printed, well, to over almost 25 million reward cards printed in roughly the last 16 months. So going back to the original question here that we posed at the beginning of this video is, why are soulbound reward cards a requirement for Splinterlands going forward? Well, it's because of that data. We just have way too many cards being minted on the blockchain that can be sold or rented, and just not enough actual players to consume them. And it's because, again, the stance of bots being allowed in the game and that not changing. Well, if we're not going to remove the bots, we have to remove at least the inflation of the cards in the ecosystem to maintain the game's integrity. So for all of those out there, including myself, who are kind of questioning why this push to soulbound reward cards, well, similar to the starter cards being removed from earning potential due to the bot farms, this is the next step, because we just can't maintain this explosive growth here, this yellow line here for reward cards. We've got the huge line here for just the supply of cards in general here. You know, the only way we're going to realistically combat that without simply removing bots from the game is, well, just the ability for bots to earn or print or mint those reward cards moving forward, or for them to set the right Chaos Legion or future set of Rebellion print rate appropriately. So there you have it. Basically, some data that supports why soulbound cards are coming to the game sooner rather than later, the reasoning behind it, and really why it's a necessity for it to happen. So I hope this video has been informational. Hopefully the data does shed some light on this decision from the Splinterlands team. And if this data and this research and this information is beneficial for you, well, consider becoming a member to the channel. Supporting the channel here on YouTube definitely helps out. And until next time, keep stacking those stats.
That's entertainment.